Coming to you live from deep within a slushy and rainy and unseasonably warm radioactive wasteland, we are the survivors of the alt-right Keck apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the glowy zombie hordes with Rantzerker number 194. Honey Badger Radio targeted by Homeland Security? Question mark. Yeah, well, actually, mostly Karen, but also us as well. Apparently,
the glowy federale hordes.
The glowy federale hordes.
Yeah.
Rantzerker 194. So I just want to do a big shout out to BX. That is at BX_on_X at Twitter, who initiated this or created this Twitter thread and did a lot of the research to find this out. This seems to be shades of did anybody remember all of those little NGOs that were going after the alt-right or alleged alt-right years ago to try to debank them? And
and it's like, and it hasn't stopped, right? You have the NGOs, like the Twitter files, anyone who was following that, Matt Taibbi.
I was just watching a thing about that. Matt Taibbi speaking at a
congressional hearing.
Congressional hearing, yeah.
Yeah, him and Mike Schellenberger and him and Barry Weiss, I think. She quit the New York Times and went independent. But these are all independent journalists. And when Elon Musk took over Twitter, he handed them a whole ton of internal documents. And he managed to save some of those documents because one of his directors went on a deleting spree. That director, or it was an executive. He was like a deputy chief executive or something like that, right? Well, that guy, James Baker, used to be the general counsel for the FBI. Okay. And he went on an internal document deletion spree that Elon Musk caught him in the act and fired him, right? And then he handed over all these internal memos and emails and communications and Slack chats and all of this other stuff over to Taibbi and Schellenberger and Barry Weiss and I think there were a couple of others, and got them to go through it. And basically, particularly since the Biden administration, I mean, there was always some communication, red flagging of accounts and stuff by the federal government, various agencies and departments, basically saying, well, we think this is we think this account needs to be reviewed, right? And it's basically like pushing the report button, only you get instant service, you get an instant, immediate review, right? But since the Biden administration took office, it's been like really heavy-handed. They have there was one email exchange where the White House assistant communications director or whatever was complaining about an account, and he was complaining about the back channel, right? The special form that the government has, right, to get them moved to the front of the line for any kind of report like this, right? Complaining that it wasn't working, and he had to refresh it a bunch of times and refill it out and whatever, and he was really pissed. And then Twitter responded within like 5 minutes and said, we'll get on this, we'll review it and take action if necessary, right? And then the guy says, basically said, well, go ahead and be non-compliant, see what happens. Right? And the worst thing, and this is coming right out of the White House. This isn't just coming out of like the FBI or the DHS or whatever, or the CIA. This is like coming out of the White House, the Biden administration, the staff, White House staff, right? Now, Trump had one instance where one of his communications directors asked that a tweet be taken down, be deleted. It was when who's that? Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen said something rude about Trump's penis, and the White House asked if that tweet could be taken down, and they said no, it doesn't violate our terms of service. So, and that was like, that was the one thing. See, Trump is just as bad as the rest of them. He's trying to control social media.
Also qualified, like if that was about Hillary's cooch, wouldn't Twitter be like, "Oh no, we can't have that"?
Yeah, that's harassment. That's sexual harassment.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit different than. I mean, what does anybody's cooch or Peter have to do with their politics? And why would you feel like, and like fair game, parody, whatever, but also like, but the problem is the double standard. Like you do that to a female politician, and suddenly the world, the sky is falling.
Well, what they found, what these journalists found was that that the government was requiring or getting Twitter, pressuring Twitter to basically censor a whole bunch of distinguished individuals, right? Like Stanford trained professors of epidemiology, right? Harvard immunologists, right? Like, if they actually found 3 categories of information that the government was requiring them to censor. And it was like misinformation, which is just being mistaken, just being wrong because you made a mistake, right? Disinformation, which is lying. And what they call the new category, malinformation, which is true information that subverts or counters public policy, right? So Biden wants everyone to get the vaccines. So when people started posting their actual vaccine injuries, these are actual true stories with their actual doctor's diagnosis of vaccine injury, right? Those people were being censored. They were being throttled. Sometimes their accounts were being deleted, right? And so I'm just sitting here and I'm watching this and my jaw is dropping. And of course, the Democrats in these congressional hearings, because the last one was like, I think it was the third one where Schellenberger and Taibbi came and testified, right? And the first one, I'm watching it and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And the Democrats are all just defending it. They're like, well, they weren't forcing Twitter to do it. Yeah, no, they're just threatening them with being broken up, all these big tech companies being broken up with antitrust laws if they don't comply.
Yeah, it's and now we are seeing this, which is that the Homeland Security
is blowing $700,000 to like put a spotlight on Allison in buttfuck Saskatchewan and me sitting on my fucking couch with my sidewalk half shoveled.
Do you want me to put up the tweet?
Because I'm not even capable of organizing a trip to the toilet if there's more than 2 people involved. Okay?
Maybe they're afraid of my
I'm a terrorist threat? Really?
Maybe they're afraid of my organizational capabilities as they are.
And I'm so fucking lazy, I couldn't even finish my goddamn sidewalk. I'm like, just let the city come do it. I'll pay the $350 fine. Jesus.
Yeah.
Should I read the tweet that started it?
Yeah, let's read the tweet that started it.
So
that started it all.
There was a tweet thread that starts by someone named BX with a blue check at BX on X, and this was very recent, like what, yesterday, I think, when we learned about it. And they write this, so I'm going to read it out for you guys. And I'm sorry for my voice, but I've had like a sore throat for the last couple days, and I haven't been able to sleep very well.
You COVID leper.
Yeah, basically. Well, I'm one of those dirty, filthy, unvaccinated people. So
me too.
Yeah.
I think Allison is too.
Okay, let's not go there because we don't want to get pulled.
All right. So Anyway, they write, massive. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security paid nearly $700,000 to a counter-terrorism NGO to, quote, intercept and divert, end quote, Twitter/X traffic away from specific individuals in the manosphere. And they tagged at Rational Mail, which is Rollo, Cobra Tate, which I think is Andrew Tate, and Fresh and Fit Pod, which is Fresh and Fit, among others, were specifically named as targets. The DHS TVTP grant funding was given to Arizona State University, home of the McCain Institute. The purpose of the grant was to design a native tool to be used on Twitter to effectively suppress individuals in the manosphere by diverting their audiences away from their content towards counter-messaging content, which is websites, podcasts, and creators created or curated by the McCain Institute to counter hate speech and misinformation. The U.S. government has named the manosphere as one of the biggest terror threats facing the U.S. They claim this broad network is the main cause of extremely isolated acts of incel-related violence. The conflation of incels with the broader manosphere as a justification for targeted counterterrorism ops, which can include aggressive surveillance and censorship, is part of a disturbing trend. The ever-broadening definitions of terrorism and extremism put forth by the U.S. government poses a very real threat to the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. Even worse, the grant application and resulting reports suggest a large-scale collaboration of tech giants, NGOs, and U.S. government agencies to design and implement tools to counter hate and disinformation by diverting web traffic away from specific individuals and communities deemed harmful. What is harmful content according to the U.S. government? White supremacy, anti-government views, so libertarianism, foreign terror organizations like ISIS, and the manosphere are the top 4 terror threats according to the McCain Institute.
The manosphere.
The manosphere. And
Top
ISIS.
4! Woo!
Top
In your
4.
face! In your face!
Face ISIS. Jeez.
In your face, alt-right. Trumpists. Trumpists.
We beat up the
sand.
Trumpists. I guess we don't technically qualify as the manosphere, but since we are going to be lumped in anyway.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, but we're not
Yes,
mega Republicans.
We count. It doesn't matter if we're not. We're basically like here. I'll just go to the screenshot about where they talk about the Karen thing here. So this is part of the document. One of our Twitter followers shared a screenshot of this, and of course they get the facts wrong, but that's not important. It says, well, it's not. I mean, they get some of the stuff wrong, but I think the point is that we are not immune. So it says Karen's channel hosts 200,000 plus followers. That's Karen's personal channel, and her video archive is expansive, dating from 2013 to 2022. While Strawn's content seems less explicitly incendiary, there is overlap between her typical men's rights discourse and other manosphere-related topics. In hosting well-known misogynists on her podcast, Honey Badger Radio, or by interviewing PUA-affiliated figures, her channel permits the propagation of misogynistic thought. What?
We're all Karen. It's like
We're
a Spartacus
all Karen,
moment.
yeah.
I'm Karen. You're Karen. Karen is Karen. My dog is Karen. Jojo is Karen.
You are merely my pseudopods. I am the amoeba, and you are the extensions of my protoplasm.
This is just showing that they don't really do deep research. They just do enough.
No.
They slap this stuff. Do what they want to do.
I guarantee.
Okay. Oh yeah, what Allison, you said that they got on my ass for interviewing Sasha Daygame. Sasha Daygame, the most freaking purple pickup artist out there, right? He's like, I think the nightclub scene is skeezy and there's a lot of questionable consent sex going on there.
Oh.
And I don't like it. I think it's a little dirty.
Let me just do a little bit of directing before we continue with this. If you go to the actual report, go back to the actual report, Brian, and then just scroll down.
This one?
Just go almost to the end. Because they talk about women in the manosphere. Oh, it looks like it has to load up.
It's
I
loading.
It's loading.
So
Yeah.
there's,
Okay.
oh wow, they got Pearl and
They got Pearl after Pearl, because he got a lot on Pearl. They got pages and pages and pages on Pearl. Pearl is okay. Go back up. Oh no, wait, yeah, down. I think it's YouTube, but yeah, a little bit further. You'll see the Karen. You'll see Karen's. There you go. There's Karen. There's Sasha Daygame.
Oh,
Very purple pilled.
oh yeah, Sasha Daygame. Yeah, no, he was like, I was like, Jesus Christ, you gotta like grow a spine there, dude, right? But you're giving women too much credit, and you know, but it's like okay, like I interview all kinds. I talk to anybody, right?
But
and
they didn't even put.
I've talked to Roosh V. I interviewed him.
Chris Cantwell was the big one.
Chris Cantwell, Cantwell, who was at the Unite the Right. He wasn't just at the rally during the day. He was at the Tiki Torch rally the night before.
Okay, why Sasha Daygame? Like, why? Okay, I have lots of thoughts on this. One, what we're seeing is that Homeland Security, and presumably probably the FBI is involved in this somewhere, regard men who have who want to have a relationship with women and want to pursue the skills in order to interest women in relationships with them. They're terrorists. Men who don't have relationships with women, they're
do
terrorists.
Not possess the skills
and
maybe never will.
And men who do not want relationships with women at all are terrorists. Men who are currently regretting the legal ramifications of relationships with women are terrorists. Like,
yeah, no, they're like going at it from
absurd.
It's all ends against all men. It's like if you like women, you're a misogynist.
If you don't like women,
if you don't want anything to do with women, you're a misogynist. If you wish you had a relationship with women but you can't figure out how to get one, you're a misogynist.
Yep.
If you do want a relationship with women and you do know how to get one, you're also a misogynist. It's like I mean, they are literally MGTOW terrorists, incels terrorists, MRAs terrorists, right? Pickup artists terrorists. Right? Like any kind of way that a man expresses himself or his masculinity that has any kind of criticism or any kind of understanding of female nature, terrorist.
Yeah. Oh, I think Karen's mouth is moving when I talk too.
Well, because the sound is just going out of the communications audio. Karen's not on her own separate thing, so it's when I you guys
damn
talk.
it! Well, yeah, we are all Karen now.
Well, just you. I'm not.
That's true. That's true. You guys, Honey Badger Radio is all me. It's all mine. I expect you to switch over ownership ASAP.
Aw, no.
No, I don't want. I don't honestly want to own anything.
I think it's probably better that they think you own it, because then it just confuses them. I mean,
it basically, you're probably not going to get audited anytime soon. So,
yeah, famous last.
If they think I own it,
do you have wood? Knock on wood. Let's knock. On
solid wood coffee table.
I don't have wood anymore.
Mode Modern from 1965.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to point that out. Like they're defining men who have an opinion about their relationships with women as terroristic. Like that's insane. And this is the powers that be. So when feminists start talking about how we're the underdog, no, they're not. They are absolutely 100% embedded in the entire structure. They marginalize every aspect of men and men's lives and men's opinions about themselves. It's it's pervasive and disturbing.
Yeah. Do you remember when, I think it was when Vice did that thing about ICMI 14?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then someone asked a feminist about it or something. She was like, "Ooh, I only wish feminists had that kind of power."
What?
And it's like, yeah, because every time something happens for women and people think it's great, right? And the public thinks, the overwhelmingly approves. It's like, feminism did that because we're that powerful, right? But then anytime the public is just like, actually, that doesn't seem quite fair and we don't like it. They're like, well, we didn't have anything to do with it because we don't have that kind of power. Like, fuck this shit.
You have
That's
the power
like,
of defining the narrative and defining how you're seen. Like,
Yeah,
this is
no, and
ridiculous. At this point, there's no denying it. We don't even know how far this goes, how many institutions are completely in their pocket. Although in this instance, I think that considering the shoddy nature of the resource, this is probably an NGO just making a cash grab, to be honest.
Possibly. I think the only reason
yeah,
why
but
we know
the
about
DHS
this.
wouldn't. The DHS wouldn't be paying for it and wouldn't be listing the manosphere as in the top 4 if they didn't think that the manosphere was in the top 4.
What the hell are they doing?
Oh, they think Alec Manassian and Elliot Rodger are like a trend or something.
Yeah, but well, they're very. First of all, Elliot Rodger existed before the whole incel thing. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is the behavior of an institution that's completely lost the plot over what it's actually protecting. The fact that they're diverting funds from saving Americans by foiling actual terrorist acts to classifying men's opinions on things in their life as terrorism. I mean, think about that. We have a government that classifies men having an opinion on their relationships with women or lack thereof as terrorism.
The DHS is in charge of the borders, right? Okay. And the moment Biden took office, he opened the southern border, right? And his idea of funding the border and securing the border is just when people cross illegally, we process them faster and release them into the interior faster, right? If we can get funds for that, then we won't have this big crisis at the border, right? So there have been 6 million people who've crossed that border illegally since 2021, since Biden took office. 6 million people. And hundreds of people on the terror watch list have been apprehended at the border. But there have been 1.5 million known gotaways. Those are people who crossed the border away from a point of entry, were caught on camera, but nobody actually caught them, right? And we don't know who they are. So I'm like, and then we don't even know how many unknown gotaways there were who crossed over where there were no cameras. So
can I say something?
They're worried about the manosphere.
All right, Brian has been trying to
something?
say something. Yeah. It's like
I don't
salmon
think this is
swimming
incompetence. I don't think this is ludicrousy. I think this is
it's
entirely purposeful.
It's intentional.
And it's absolutely deliberate. And the manosphere, or what they call the manosphere, is really just anyone that wants to discuss the issues that men face outside of feminist oversight. That's all it is. That it's basically like we are because look, I live paycheck to paycheck in a small apartment in Virginia. I'm not making massive waves. I'm not collecting, big giant government grants. I'm just talking about issues without feminist oversight.
In a sensible way.
I'm critical of the way that things are. And I think that these people, so sometimes this becomes a discussion about people like, election fraud. We talk about things like election fraud and the border and the war in Israel and the war in Ukraine. It's all connected. It's all connected. And it starts with men. And they know that. They know that that's where everything else comes from. And so they can't let us say anything that's going to help men, because a society with strong independent men is a society that does not need the state. And they know that, and they're terrified of it. And that's why they're doing this. It's on purpose, 100%. They're not stupid. I know it doesn't make sense when you look at it, but if you know that they have absolutely no intention of helping men, absolutely no intention of helping women, absolutely no intention of helping anyone except themselves, then it becomes really obvious. I mean, look at, you think it's not connected, but look at how I can't do this now because it would take too long. But there's this old document that Planned Parenthood put out where they were like, we have to reduce the population. And it's not just through abortion, because they weren't just doing that. They had a whole plan because they hate people and they want to make up people fewer. And so they break up families, they separate men and women, they promote abortions, they promote homosexuality, they promote all this other stuff, and it actually has those consequences. They are getting what they want. This is absolutely on purpose. This is not stupid. This is not misled. This is not absurd. This is just evil, and they're doing it, and they know it. And we should stop pretending like they're just misled, because it's not true.
I'm not saying that they're misled. I'm not saying they're misled.
No, but okay, so there are a few people, including Vivek Ramaswamy at the debate last night.
Yes.
Was it last night? Who talked about how the 8 gray replacement ray Erie is not a conspiracy theory.
Nope.
And I'm looking at like the footage of these people all waiting on the one side of the wall, the border wall, to go in and get checked in and be released into the interior of the U.S. Right? They're all fighting age men, and there's like maybe 1 out of 20 is a woman. 1 out of 30 is a woman with a child, right? The rest of them are fighting age men. And then you got Senator Dick Durbin standing on the floor of the Senate giving a speech saying, well, recruitment's way down since we brought in all this woke stuff and started suggesting our soldiers cut their dicks off, right? And started talking about white rage in the military and, how in 1619 and all of that crap, right? So we can't get the recruits that we need. So how about this? How about we take these illegals and if they serve,
make them legal
in the military, we can make them citizens.
Yeah, that's sort of like a late stage empire's tactic.
Oh yeah, no, didn't the Romans do that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing though. All right, this is what's sort of maybe a little bit of a white pill. Yes, the Romans did that, and the western half of the empire collapsed. However, the eastern half of the empire survived into modernity, and it's because I think that the Roman culture was very adaptive. And it adapted in certain ways that we could get into. Like, I could talk about it, but I won't, because this is going to take us way off topic. But I wanted to say something to what Brian was talking about how, and also Karen, because what she's bringing up is they're importing illegals of fighting age because they know that there's no way, they have no incentive for men, naturalized men, to fight for this society. The society that literally takes their money to put a scope up their ass, these men's ass, about their opinions on women and their opinions on their relationships with women. You believe that? Like, yeah. And they know this. They know that this is rotten to the core. They know that this is part of what's driving the recruitment failure. So they're importing men in to fill up the army so that we could defend ourselves, like they did in the late Roman Empire.
Yeah, and they're dangling the carrot of citizenship in front of them. They're dangling
because they have absolutely nothing to give men in our society at this time. They can't even give them a kind word. All they have is a proborum, censorship, and apparently being classified as a terrorist for having an opinion on the woman or the women or lack of women in your life. Yeah, that's absurd. That'd be like all of the women, the fat women, you're terrorists because you consider, well, you men don't find you as attractive as thin women. You're a terrorist now because you have an opinion on men's opinion of you. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, it's
the society we live in.
And this whole time I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, they should hear my husband talk to me. It's like what? My husband talk to me.
Oh yeah,
right. I'll tell him something. I'll make fun of him or whatever, and he'll be like, "I will punch you in the tit."
I got a super chat. I want to read it really quick so it doesn't disappear. from TV Dinner Master Chef, who gives us £5 and says, "Doesn't Homeland Security have better things to do, including too much money and not enough actual work to do? Funds for pamphlets and similar terror devices." Well, they would probably say that they could walk and chew gum at the same time. They're obviously not protecting the border, so that's one job that they don't have to do. But yeah, no, it's all about control.
No, Brian.
No.
Every time I see Alejandro Mayorkas in front of Congress, he assures everyone that the border is secure.
Oh, right. Well,
and that he
so,
inherited a broken immigration system from Trump.
Yeah, of
the
course.
border was broken under Trump.
You know, I don't want to get too far into immigration because there was something I wanted to talk about with
we've abused and beaten and demoralized our men to the point where we have to import psychologically at least healthy masculinity, right? Like, or at least men with a healthy sense of themselves as men.
Mm-hmm.
We have to import them to be able to fill up slots in not just the military, but in the police force.
Yeah.
They're hiring illegals, undocumented immigrants to be police.
Well, what can we say?
They're going to attack those men too, eventually.
Well, of course they are.
Eventually.
That's the society we're part of. We are in a death spiral attacking masculinity. And I hate to tell everyone, but there's a reason why men evolved. And there is no successful society that doesn't integrate masculine instincts into its perpetuation and maintenance. Like this, it doesn't exist. All right? And when you make this gigantic war on the half of your population, and the half of your population that incidentally is keyed for whatever reason to sacrifice everything for their social group, everything. Men have an instinct to step between danger and their social group. And you have decided you're not interested in having that. Well, guess what? Guess what you lose when you decide to marginalize the half of the population that's willing to sacrifice everything for their social group, for their nation, for their religion, for their tribe, for their clan, for their family. Guess what you lose? You lose your ability to protect yourself.
Well, and this is
your ability to build a future.
This is an instinct too, right? So it takes a lot of counter pressure to squash that, to like completely obliterate it, right? To make it so that men are completely apathetic, that they no longer will act on that instinct.
Apathetic. Did you read that recent? Okay, so there's an article, and I know exactly what you're saying, Karen. It takes a frick ton. It takes generations of pressure and marginalization. Recently, there was an article that came across my Twitter desk, and it was talking about, or either there, it was shared in the Discord. It's talking about how they did this study on about 5,000, I think split evenly between German and UK men. And they found that men who have a negative opinion of masculinity have worse mental health outcomes. I mean, duh, but you know, they need to know this stuff because they can't use common sense like we do.
Yeah, no, they need to actually verify it, you know, through empirical research. Yeah.
When you tell men that their masculinity is shit, they feel bad and they have worse mental health outcomes. But here's
they have like a negative self-concept when you tell them they're bad. It's like very strange.
Here's the kicker. After these many generations of feminists telling men that masculinity is associated with violence against women, we now have a generation of young men who think that masculinity is violence against women. And the older generations associate masculinity with protecting women. The younger generations associate it with being violent towards women. And it's a shift in the attitude. It's not that they are violent towards women. It's a shift in the attitude of believing the relationship between masculinity and women. So the older generation,
my sons don't buy into that. Okay,
that's good.
They're 21 and 29. They do not buy into any of that crap, right? About, you know, how masculinity is bad and it's the equivalent of violence against women. But they're not interested in dating. and they're not interested in putting themselves in harm's way for women at all.
Honestly, I don't blame men. Like, there's this guy on Twitter who's like, well, I don't have any interest. I don't have any interest in protecting or being violent to women. I just want to ignore them. I'm like, understandable. Have a nice day. It's like, I can understand that at this point. I can understand the men who are just checking out of this monstrosity that we've constructed. But my point is that feminism has constructed this link between these young men's sense of themselves as men and the most horrible crime you can imagine, which is violence against women. Don't don't bullshit me on this. Everybody thinks violence against women is the worst.
Everybody,
it is the most heinous thing you can do. And you have constructed this, you've conflated the most heinous, sinful act with men, when masculinity. That's what feminists have done. And it's led to unbelievable toll in men's mental health. And even those guys, you were saying some men are apathetic. Good for them. Those are the men that have actually survived with something intact. Most guys are not apathetic. They're actively self-loathing. Good luck constructing men who are willing to go out and protect women from guys who are mentally shut down by the messaging that feminists give them. Good job. Good job destroying your civilization, everyone. Take a bow.
Yeah.
Grief. And the thing is that people they don't see this. They don't see the connection between all of this.
Yeah. No, it's infuriating too, right? Because like when
even the conservatives don't.
Yeah, no, and you get the whole discussion on fatherlessness, and it's like, well, girls suffer from fatherlessness too. Yeah, except for girls, okay, they're probably going to grow up in daycares populated by adult women, in elementary schools populated by adult women, and with a mother in the home, maybe aunts and a grandmother around them, right? Okay, so they got plenty of same-sex adult role models who are responsible and all of that to basically give themselves a positive view of women in the world, right? What do boys have? It's like Tommy Sotomayor said, like, you never insult somebody's mama on the playground, right? Your mama ain't shit. Yeah, you freaking fisticuffs, right? Okay? Even if your mom's a crack whore, you got to defend her. And then
Mexicans are the same too.
Yeah, but then somebody says your daddy ain't shit, and the first thing you say is, my daddy. Like, because that's what they've been hearing from their mom their whole fucking life. Your daddy ain't shit. I don't need no man.
I got
a super chat and a super chow. I'm going to go ahead and read those. So, super chat from, is it Joel Jed77 for £2. And he says they hope the bashing would be a challenge to men. Thank you, Jed. Well, it certainly is. And then I got a really big super chow. Thank you so much for the super chow. And this is from Asthrun, because it's $5, and he says, this pisses me off so much. We have feminists talking about the pink tax, actually male products are more expensive now, and claim how oppressed they are. Meanwhile, a group of men and women discussing how men can find meaning to better themselves and how are labeled as biggest threat to society. What the actual fuck? At the same time, we have Ukrainian women complaining why the men don't want to fight. Your videos and those of Bane666AU or even Justicar have become even more relevant. What do you badgers think? Will it be up to men again to fix these feminist mess and still get blamed for it? Well, I will say real quick, we actually are a threat to them, to their power.
Yeah,
that's
but not
why
in
they're
any
doing
physical,
this.
gross
Because
physical
a man who has a purpose and does not hate himself is the most dangerous thing to people like these elites. This is why they're doing it. We are a threat to their power. That's what I think.
All right. I want to put my slot in here. I think that it's a threat in a different, it is a threat, yes, but not in a gross and physical way. It has nothing to do with an actual violent threat, because I don't think we pose a violent threat in the slightest. I don't think any of us here are violent people. It's just not in our nature. We are very kind and very compassionate people. That's why we talk about the group of people that you get the most blowback for extending any kind of compassion for. Like, look at all of the crap that we've dealt with year after year after year at Honey Badger Radio. And part of it looks like it is literally the government is in some ways got us in our sight, in their sights. Like, now I have to ask, well, why was I turned away from the why was I turned away from the US border during the
in
ICMI
2018.
2019? Like, what
Oh yeah,
was it really? I mean, I know other Canadians were also being turned away for similar reasons, but on the other hand, like, was it just that? And they knew who I was. They knew that I was part of Honey Badger Radio. In fact, they also spoke, like, when Mike, Dr. Rantzerker, went to see Lauren. So he's in a relationship with Lauren, as I think you guys know, and he periodically comes to the US. Before COOF, he came to the US to see Lauren, and he was questioned about his relationship to me and Honey Badger Radio at the border. Yes. So now I have to wonder, why exactly was I turned away and banned for 5 years from the US? Not just turned away, not just, oh, hey, stupid, naive Canadian, you just can't apply for a B2 visa right now because whatever, we're really getting hinky about immigration. No, I was banned for 5 years. And now I have to wonder about all of that. Like, how deep does that network of how deep does that file go on me and Honey Badger Radio and Karen and the rest of us? So we are literally dealing potentially, well, looks like actually now, with a system that's out to get us. And I know how paranoid that sounds, but it's staring us right there.
Yeah, I feel like Mel Gibson.
Yeah. And
in that movie.
And then also the deal with the court case and losing the court case, not just on the stuff that might have been a little bit more of a stretch, but the stuff that was right there in black and white. They can't, that a contract that they had is not, it's not actually legal based on Canadian consumer protection. And they didn't even rule, like the judge didn't even rule in my favor and say, hey, okay, pay her $750 and let's move on with our lives. They didn't even do that. This was over $750. And the judge broke Canadian law, gave a judgment that wasn't even a judgment because it didn't even reference any law, because he couldn't reference any law with his judgment because it was completely divorced from the law.
Yep.
And
he got half the facts wrong too.
Yeah, and what happened there? How did that happen? And it's like every step of the way, how much we have dealt with the system, how much we have tried to keep going despite all of the crap that we are facing. And the only thing that motivates us is the fact that we care about people, and we care about a group of people that nobody else is willing to. And not just because, nobody gives a fuck about men. Why would you, really? Because men are there to be thrown into the pit in order to build the bridge that everybody else walks across for society, right? Nobody gives a fuck about them. That's why we can send them to build the tunnel under the Thames, and a couple dozen men die for every foot of tunnel, right? That's why we can send them into war to solve our political disputes, which is the most ridiculous monstrosity I've ever heard of. But anyway, so we have this inclination not to care about men, but we do. Like the people here do. We're doing this because we care.
Well, and we're not doing it just because we care for men, right? It's not like we solely care for men. Like, I care about my daughter. I want her to have like a chance at a reasonable life.
Oh yeah.
As well, and I had this horrible nightmare, right, the other night, where, my older two, because they're only about 15 months apart, they were sitting and talking, and they were joking about they made some wisecracks about culture and misogyny, and like they made some sexist remarks, and then they fist bumped, right? And then there was this man who was sitting in front of them saying, "Why are you fist bumping over that? That was really rude," right? And then my daughter started crying, and he says, "Well, what's with this?" And she says, "Everyone's either took or done. Everyone's either took or done." And I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, because she's 28, right? No kids yet. She's got a boyfriend, no kids yet. And she, you know, and it's like time's running out, and everyone is either taken or done.
Yeah, done with the shit. But
Yeah.
my point is that we do this, and I care about women. In fact, it really pisses me off when I see the full extent. In part, you know, you go towards men for the same reason that someone like Justin Trottier does, because nobody does. Nobody's taking care of men. Nobody's looking out for men. So this is what you decide to do, right? It's not because you don't care about women. And in fact, it infuriates me when I realize that feminists don't care about women. They're just a payday. They don't care about women.
Yeah, they're just victim farming.
Them. They're just victim farming.
They're tools.
And that really pissed me off because I thought at the very least feminists cared about women. And then I find out they don't. They don't care about anyone. They care about their freaking bottom line and their political clout. But anyway, my point is that none of us are aggressive people. We're driven by compassion.
Oh, I don't know about that, Allison, but
Okay, except for Karen. Okay, Karen is her own person. But we are driven by compassion. We are very disagreeable, which is why we can keep going forward despite all of the crap that's thrown at us socially. Like, I don't give a fuck. You call me a pick-me. I want to live with myself at the end of the day. And if I turn away...
Well, I already been picked.
If I turn away from something that is important to me because I believe that it is the compassionate thing to do because I was bullied by a bunch of reprobates, I can't live with myself with that. And then we have to deal with the institutional stuff. But my overall point is we are so driven by compassion that we are willing to walk into a hail of social, political, and legal bullshit in order to keep advocating for men. Right? And we are willing to do this on a shoestring budget. Like, I looked at the financials and there was one feminist NGO, one head of a feminist NGO. Her salary is the entire budget for all of HBR combined. Just her salary for a year, and all she does is put out a pamphlet and do a monthly 1.5 hour seminar. That's it. That's her entire productivity.
Yeah, no, it's like
It's insane. So we work on a shoestring budget, you know, and I feel bad about that. We work on a shoestring budget. We are constantly dealing with shit like the Homeland Security declaring us, and I know they are going to lump us with the manosphere as one of the 4 biggest terroristic threats, even though none of us are in any way violent. And then dealing with all the legal ramifications. Like, this is a hard row to hoe. This is really fucking hard. It's really hard. And yet we still do it. And I'm just saying that says something about our natures as being compassionate and how much we're driven by compassion. That's all I was saying. So I don't but we are a threat on a moral level.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm going to say that is I don't think they're afraid necessarily of men becoming violent. They're afraid of men walking away and building something else. Because when men walk away and they build something else, Rome happens. And Rome is unstoppable. I'm just going to say that.
Until it gets stopped because they started devaluing
Well, then it goes into the East. And the thing is that when you look at the politics of Europe and Eastern Rome, we are living in the shadow of the politics of the breakup of the West. Like all of the countries, you know, their borders are almost exactly the same as the Roman provinces they used to be. A lot of their politics and their cultural attitudes are inherited from when they were Roman. Like what happened is you got that centralization falling, and then building itself back up again locally. So it's like our civilization is in the shadow of that one, reclaiming it, and still working off of, how to describe this, still working off of the operating system developed in that little town with the 7 hills off the coast, in Italy. We're still operating off of that. And if we actually look at that and we actually consciously understand ourselves, we can build something that is a foundation for a future that the Homeland Security, all of this stuff is not going to be part of. That's what men have in them, and women, when men and women work together and actually care about each other and actually build something together. We can build something that they have absolutely, that they're not going to be part of. And they must know that. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm not motivated primarily by compassion. Not for men, not for women, not for
wrong on the internet.
Well, there is that'd probably be about 20% of my motivation, but it really is because I do have skin in the game in the form of 3 children, and I'd really like them to have some kind of future, and like that's kind of what keeps me motivated on a number of fronts, not just on the men's rights front, but on certain other topics that are highly controversial as well. And but it's basically, I look at it and I think, like, we all want a functional society, right? We all want to at least retain the standard of living that we have now, where I flip a switch, the lights come on, right? Where I turn a tap, the water comes out, and it's not poisoned. It's not full of lead. It's not full of contaminants, right? It's not full of beaver fever. Okay, we all at least want that. My husband works in critical infrastructure, right? And everybody wants the toilet to flush and for the waste to be carried away. Like, everybody needs that. Everybody wants that. Everybody absolutely has to have that, right? Otherwise, they would be like, Allison, have you ever lived in a house with a completely clogged sewer line? She's not there. Brian, have you ever?
No, but
have you ever been in a house where it was 36 hours before you could flush a toilet or use your kitchen sink?
No.
In the middle of winter when it's 20 below out?
No.
No.
But I think I get the thrust of what you're. Yeah, go ahead.
No. And I'm just like, okay, so what do we have to do to maintain this? What do we have to do to retain this? What do we have to do so that the next generation has things at least as good as we do? Right? And that informs me on things like the waste of fucking time and money that college is for most people. It informs me on, governments, maybe they should be balancing their budgets and not going into debt, because that's not how households are supposed to operate. Why does the government operate like that? Right? Maybe we should be promoting the most productive people, right? And encouraging people in their particular fields of greatest productivity. Like, maybe that's what we should be doing, right? And it's like, well, you don't take your most economically productive people, not just economically productive, but in terms of units of work produced per year, units of benefit produced, the number of times I flip that switch and the lights come on, it's like just amazing. It's like almost every time. You want to keep those people happy, functional, healthy, right? And motivated, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you want to do. And it's like, so like from a purely pragmatic, utilitarian standpoint, we are destroying our entire society, right? And not only are we destroying the future for our kids, we've basically I saw a meme the other day, right? Welcome to a newborn, right? Welcome to the world. Here's your $78,000 in debt.
Mm.
Okay.
I could actually hear you guys. I was just
All right. I
attending
got
to,
a super
seeing
chat,
a
a
man
super
about a horse.
chow.
And before we go into that, can I just
Did you just say you had to see a man about a horse?
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but yes.
Okay, did you need to shake the weasel though?
No, I had to shutter the clam. Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Excellent.
All right. So anyway, I did hear you, and yes, I have lived in a house without plumbing, and it was not pleasant.
Mm.
Yeah. Get good use out of those big paint buckets. All right. And also, I just want to remind everybody who's listening, if you do want to send us a message, the best way to do so is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of the funds, and you get the full benefit of avoiding YouTube's comment enhancement system. That's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Okay, go ahead, Brian. I just wanted to say that because I haven't said it yet.
That's fine. So I got a super chat and a super chow, or a rumble rant. Actually, it's a rumble rant. So I got a rumble rant from Blade Kaiser, and he says, for $5, thank you, Blave. Just sitting here at work, and all of a sudden, a wild Rantzerker appears. What the deuce? Yes, we have been.
What the deuce?
What the deuce?
What the deuce?
We've been spotted by the. Well, I think we've been on the radar for a while, so I guess it wouldn't be fair to say we've been spotted, but yes, we are under the radar of the Department of Homeland Security.
We haven't even got into what they're actually doing.
I know.
Okay,
I know. Right. I'd like to. Okay. Sorry, I'm like sucking on a Ricola lozenge because my throat. So
yeah,
don't take offense to that. Sick Fox gives us $10 as a super chow and says, if talking about men's issues creates a threat to the state, then that tells you what you need to know about the state. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I meant when I said it's a threat. I don't mean a physical threat. I don't mean a threat of violence or harm. I mean that when you have men that know what their worth is, that have the appropriate amount of support, your government's influence and power, and all of the other institutions, all these feminist organizations, they diminish. And they know that, and that's why they're doing this.
And
actually, they're not as necessary anymore, right. And so like they just go away.
Yeah, they don't need them.
Great.
Specifically, before we continue, they're worried about women talking about men's issues.
Oh yeah.
Well, more than men talking about men's issues, because men have been doing that forever, and they haven't responded this way.
Yeah, and they so we can go through that section that I showed you.
You want me to go back to the
Davis? Yeah. Let's talk
PDF,
a little bit about
right here.
Yeah, just go up and because they have a specific section on women who talk about men's issues. You have to go up a bit further to this YouTube, a preliminary. Nope, keep going. It's a specific section. We should take a look at that. So incidentally, what this all is yes, we're on Homeland Security's radar, but we're also finding out
misogyny.
Yes, female-supported misogyny. We're also finding out that we are being targeted by either these groups to have attention, clicks, likes, whatever, diverted away from us. And in particular, that I've noticed that these groups really are worried about women who talk about men's issues.
Oh, women in the service of male supremacy.
Ugh. Yes.
I resent that. I am not part of the Women's Auxiliary. I am the Deputy Grand Wizard of the men's rights movement.
All hail the Deputy Grand Wizard.
I believe that is still a position below Anthony Johnson, who is the president and CEO of the manosphere, but still a worthwhile title.
Okay. But anyway, so they're really concerned about women who talk about these issues. They are. This is. I'm pretty sure that this is one of the big targets. I mean, there are pages and pages and pages and pages on Pearl. Of course, I don't understand how talking about how men are victims of society and women is male supremacy. But Square that circle in your head.
Oh,
Square
no,
that
no,
circle.
no, 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 no. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Allison. Men are supposed to do what they're told, even if what they're told changes on the hour. Okay, and they're supposed to shut the fuck up and pay. There you go.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And honestly,
One way or the other.
this is not new. A society investing in a narrative that explains why it's justified throwing men into the meat grinder, that's not new. We needed that in World War I. We needed that throughout all of our history of violence towards each other. We've needed these justifications for why men are expendable. And feminism is just another one. Just another one in a long line of them. And if we're going to challenge this, we're challenging something very fundamental. But
yeah, well, and
very
you know,
productive.
and one of the things too, right, that drives me crazy is feminism. Like, they're really great stealers of valor, right? So it's like now on Remembrance Day in Canada, November 11th, right? We have to honor the brave women and men who gave their lives for our freedoms, right? And it's like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure it was like 97% men.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure every single woman who gave her life, every single female military person, right, who gave her life for her country was did so voluntarily because she volunteered for military service, not because she was drafted. So,
and also, the military would have done considerably more to prevent her death than the men's death. And women's death in the military still isn't proportionate to their participation in the military.
oh god, yeah, no, it's still like 98% men's deaths, even though 17% of the military is women.
Yeah, it's just slightly more
And
now.
and feminists fought and fought and fought, and they got it, right, for the right of women to be promoted in the military all the way up to the very top levels, even though they'd never served in combat, because that is basically, that was kind of the standard, right? You had to have at least served in combat before you got promoted to general, right? And no, women can be promoted to be generals, despite the fact that they're not allowed to serve in or not qualified to serve in combat, even though they have never served in combat. They're allowed to now, but nobody's ever qualified.
Good Lord. All right, so let's take a look at this.
All right. So more? Or read it?
Just have a read. Yeah, just
you want me to read this?
Sure, go ahead. Let's do that.
Women in the Service of Male Supremacy, exploring female-supported extreme misogyny on mainstream social media platforms by Clara Bocart and Leila McClintock. The current online misogynist so it's women that wrote this. The current online misogynist landscape is a patchwork of various communities. With distinct discursive.
Oh, hey,
social,
do you want me to read it? Because
no,
you got
it's okay. And cultural practices. Popular communities include Men Going Their Own Way, a movement combating against what they consider a gynocentric society by withdrawing from women completely, and incels, involuntary celibates, a community of mostly young men unable to have sexual and or romantic relationships with women, which is expressed in hostility and animosity towards them in their forums. In recent years, with the rise of the manosphere, you may have encountered some content from this part of the internet unexpectedly. The algorithm curated recommendation discovery feeds of any social media app may have served you up a tweet from the notorious manosphere influencer Andrew Tate lamenting the purported abominable state of masculinity in the West, or a video from the Whatever podcast mocking the body count, that is, the number of sexual partners someone has had, of the unforgivably emancipated modern woman. Female-supported misogyny.
This is terrorism. This is what they define as terrorism.
It's not just terrorism. It is one of the top four, right up there with ISIS and libertarians. This just, like, instead of looking at it and saying, wow, aren't these really insane rankings? Maybe we should be like, Yeah, it looks like why do they have a problem with people supporting men, and why do they have a problem with libertarians? I mean, ISIS is kind of a no-brainer. Okay, I can get with that. But what is it with the other two? Why are those right up there with it? Like literally, you can be in the chat or watching this later, and you could be like, I'm not an NMRA. I don't give a fuck about men's issues, right? But I'm an ANCAP or I'm a libertarian. Well, guess what, buddy? You're with us now. And you know what? It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense because again, these are authoritarian, fucking crazy people that want to control your life. This is how much they want to control your life. They don't like that MGTOW just want to be left alone. That's like like men that don't want anything to do with women are dangerous to women somehow. Incels, men who have no chance with women, also very dangerous to women. Like, if anything, you should be telling incels, you should be convincing them to live a MGTOW lifestyle so that they'll at least be content and alone if they can, right? But no, it's not because they genuinely fear any of these people. It's because they hate the fact that these people want to be left alone without interference, without control. This is why they lump MRAs in with libertarians. You may not think it makes sense, but if you look at it from the perspective of a totalitarian dictator, it makes perfect sense.
Well, let me put it another way. They see something that you don't. Libertarians, ANCAPs, conservatives, women, hippie women with their crystals who want to use homeopathy to cure the coof. And you know what? I feel like you should have every right to do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you know what I mean. All of you don't understand why you're being lumped in with the manosphere and the far right and men. But all of you are expressions of some form of masculine virtue. And they know it. They will point this out and they will say that wanting to retain your bodily autonomy and make decisions about your own body is a masculine virtue somehow. Wanting to not act out of fear and retain your freedom to make choices is a masculine virtue. The people who are
no, a masculine characteristic, a masculine vice.
A masculine vice. The people who are promoting that, when I've seen, when they talked about, let's say, the medical authoritarianism, they were saying that submitting to certain social expectations was a feminine virtue. So submitting your freedom over your choices of what to do with your body was a feminine virtue for the benefit, for the safety of all, was a feminine virtue. And they would say that. They think that, well, they know that they're promoting this feminine submission, this feminine belief that freedom is not freedom to do what you want, but freedom from fear, as Brian's wife, Lindsay, pointed out. They're promoting all of that. That's why you're in their sights, because they see you as masculine. They see you as men. You may call yourself conservatives. You may call yourself libertarians. You may call yourself ANCAPs, but they see you as expressions of masculinity. And they're right, because you are. That desire for freedom over safety, that is masculine. That desire for autonomy over service to supposedly others, that kind of piety, that's masculine. Okay? All of these things are masculine expressions. The desire for meritocracy, the desire to have our entire society run by a meritocracy, that's masculine. Okay? The desire for people to get what they earn rather than what they need, that is masculine. They see you as men. They see you as pursuing a masculine end. You think that you're just doing a political thing that's divorced from men and women, but you're not. You've actually attached to some aspect of what I would call masculine virtues, and of course they would call masculine vices, either freedom, meritocracy, autonomy, freedom of speech. You've attached to that, and you think that this is a gender-neutral political concept. It's not. It is an expression of masculinity, and they're gunning after you because they believe and they know that you are You are professing and you're putting your weight behind something that they perceive which is wrong, which is an expression of masculinity. It's why they'll call white supremacy, and you look at what they're talking about when they say white supremacy, and it's like, well, that's masculinity. All right? They're tying whatever they can to what they hate or what they want to get rid of, which is masculinity. It's like a feminine gnosis. They want to remove it from society, and they really don't want women to be masculine, because if you think about how they're portraying women, they're not portraying women as protective towards men, as honorable towards men, as respectful and loyal, which is what we traditionally regard as masculine, and the masculine relationship towards women. They're not doing that. They define the masculine as criminal and then say, well, women should be criminal too. Women should be aggressive and sociopathic too. Because that's how we've defined masculinity, in complete defiance of how it was defined traditionally. And there should be no restrictions on women's behavior, including those restrictions that we regard this person as being an unhinged sociopath if they were a man directing their behavior at women. Okay, so it's like they are gunning, and they will say it. They will say the future is female, a world defined and ruled by women's virtues, what they perceive to be women's virtues, which is putting safety before freedom, which is putting need before merit, which is putting fear before autonomy. Okay, courage before courage. They will say that world is a better world, and that's what they're driving towards. So you think you're gender neutral? You're not. You are actually advancing some aspect of masculine virtue in a society that is dead set on eradicating it. And how else, what other conclusion can you come to when you see an institution that is putting the entire apparatus, the entire anti-terrorist apparatus, against people who are simply saying that men have a right to have an opinion? Like, this is how deep it goes.
All right. They have a right to an opinion as long as it's the right opinion.
Well, we can look at where they're redirecting people, so you guys get a sense
of
yeah. But let's finish. Let's finish reading.
All right, let me finish the paragraph then. Okay. Yeah. Female-supported misogyny on mainstream platforms has largely been contained to anti-feminist content by far-right and trad-wife subcommunities online, often mixing the aesthetics of traditional gender roles with captions condemning the idea of gender equality. A specific characteristic of this content online is the veneration of the traditional female gender roles. However, a new niche of female-supported misogyny online seems to have emerged. Rather than romanticizing and promoting a patriarchal society, these women condemn any female dissidents. This niche of female influencers and content creators...
Female dissidents?
What?
Okay. Clara and Leela, you are getting a grant from the U.S. government for your nonsense. And you are saying that we're condemning female dissidents. You're the ones. This is like complete projection. You're the ones condemning female dissidents. Okay, continue, Brian. I just wanted to point that out.
All right. This niche of female influencers and content creators, primarily followed and supported by men, use the same humiliating and denigrating language to talk about women as is typical in much of the manosphere.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so and this is all about feeling insulted.
Yeah, and men are pigs. Okay.
Yeah, and men are pigs and are blamed for any criminals. Like.
No, all men are pigs, and all men are rapists, and that is all they are. That was the epitome of feminist thought in the 1970s.
I remember.
From people like Catherine McKinnon. So don't give me this crap.
Yeah.
Right? About, we're using denigrating language against... Like, honestly, did anybody see Chris Christie simping for fucking Nikki Haley during that debate? Right? Because Vivek challenged her. He's like, she wants to send our children, our
really
troops
took her to
Ukraine.
Stop! He's already dead.
For Ukraine. Name the 3 provinces. right, that Russia wants that Ukraine doesn't want to give up? Name them, Nikki. Name them. You can't. And you know you can't. And then it's like Chris Christie comes to her rescue, Captain Savaho. Oh, well, he insulted her intelligence, and that's not okay. I know which provinces in Ukraine that are under dispute. Right? I know the region, the Donbass, Crimea, right? Then Donetsk and Luhansk,
Okay.
right? It's like no. But what I'm saying is, I know this. Nikki Haley doesn't know this. She's all in for this war. She's like $200 billion and counting. And why not send our boys over there, right? She's like, because we have to do it.
And she's completely
She can't
ignorant
even
of the
name.
actual.
She can't even name the provinces she's defending.
So the point is that she is ignorant over the opinion that she's holding.
Yeah, and then you got Chris Krispy Kreme, okay, standing there defending her because she's like completely silenced. She's got this look on her face like, oh fuck, I didn't study, right? And I wasn't expecting that question. And he's like, oh, not. I know what they are, those provinces are, and she knows what they are, and here they are, and I'll name them, right? No, she's just like, you're not allowed to insult a woman's intelligence.
Oh,
Yeah.
good Lord. Yes.
Like,
that
it was
infuriating.
so freaking, like, so I'm looking at, like, Black conservative perspective, his take on it, and he's like, oh, God, he was simping so hard for her, right? And I'm like, yeah, and like, how can we have a Nikki Haley as president of the United States, as the leader of the fucking free world, when the moment you criticize her on something legitimate, right? She's got a dozen Captain Save-A-Hos coming to a rescue saying, you can't question her because she's female.
Yeah.
Because vagina.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
And honestly, like when you're in the headspace where it is actually really disgusting to know that what you do as an individual will never be more important than your sliced salami between your legs. Like, never be more important. Like, you'll never rise as an individual woman. Your choices will never rise above the fact that you are a woman. That will always be the most salient, the most important, the most gravitational thing about you is that you're a woman. Nothing that you can do as an individual will ever be seen outside of being a woman. That, to me, is misogyny.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that to me is a combination of being gagged and hogtied. And then what the fuck's the point of my life? What's the point? What's the point of my individual choices? What's the point of anything that I do if the only thing I will ever be is a woman? Like, and what I mean by that is nothing that I can do as an individual will never eclipse the importance as a woman. It's so difficult to explain this.
No. It's not difficult at all. It's like, it's basically, I want to be defined by my actions and my words.
And
not my gender.
Not my gender.
And, like, isn't that supposed to be the entire feminist project? Right?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's how they sold it.
And I was sold that. And over the years that I engaged with it, I saw that is not what is being offered. I'm sorry. If you keep going to a deli and you're like, could I have some, spicy meatballs? And they keep serving you deer shit. Eventually you're like, I don't think that you're really about the spicy meatballs. I think you're about the deer shit. Okay? And that's where I'm coming from. I feel a deep sense of betrayal because I realized that feminism isn't about recognizing women as individual moral actions and the importance of their decisions in the greater world. It's about consistently deflecting back onto being female and saying, oh, no. The really important thing is that she's a woman always, unless she's, of course. And what's really funny is they're like, well, we'll insult the women who are not part. You bitch.
Oh yeah, no.
I'd rather be recognized as an individual actor by you outside of your weird fuzzy thought sphere than be in your weird fuzzy thought sphere. So bring it on. Bring the insults on. At least there are consequence to my actions. At least you're recognizing my individuality.
Yep. Yeah. No. And it's like the whole Sarah Palin thing, right? Well, you're not allowed to criticize Kamala Harris because she's a woman, but we can literally skin Sarah Palin alive and parade her around the town square, right? Because she's not our kind of woman, yo.
Yep. And I'll tell you how the feminists and all of the rest on that particular side, whatever, how they treat the women who disagree with them is how they really feel about women. And I don't mean like women who are doing something bad, behaving bad, just women who have a different opinion about economics, immigration, health.
Yeah.
That's their real opinion. Now it actually really struck me. Okay, actually I shouldn't get into it. I won't
we are the female face of male supremacy, Allison, so we should not be listened to.
What strangely we are listened to, but the problem is we are listened
we are the handmaidens of the patriarchy.
Okay, well, I'm not here to be a handmaiden. I'm here to have my individual choices and actions respected and offered their consequences, if that makes sense. Like, I'm
as
here
yours.
because the men's rights movement recognizes me as an individual and not just as a fucking genital mass. Okay? All right, let's keep going.
You want me to read more of this article?
Yes. You sound so delighted. Unless you want me to, I mean,
it's kind of long, but go. No, I can do it. Female extreme misogynist content creators like Pearl Davis have amassed a following across social media platforms for denigrating women for not meeting her prescribed behavioral standards.
Okay.
In addition, go ahead.
I think that a lot of people.
Pearl's message is stop being cunts.
And you know what? I think that I don't understand why everybody. I'll be honest. Okay. If you're a woman, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you're a woman who genuinely wants a companion in a man, and not a paycheck, not a like an alpha male who's going to solve all your problems, but an actual companion. I don't think it matters what you look like. You're going to find one. And I think ultimately it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter what Pearl's saying about body count and looks and youth and all of this shit. If you're a woman who wants a companion, you're fine. Like, that isn't even your world. What she's calling out women who offer nothing and want everything.
Yeah.
Okay? And that to me, at least from what I've seen, I don't agree with everything she says. I think she definitely seems to enjoy kicking the hornet's nest. And I think maybe she's over-focused on looks and body count and other stuff rather than looking at the moral fiber of women.
Yeah, no, but the issue, too,
I think that she's speaking the language that women will listen to, though, Allison.
Yeah, that's true.
I think if she talked about virtue and all that, women wouldn't pay attention. But she goes after the things that they hold to a high value and says that actually isn't very high value. And I'm going to point out why. And ultimately, she's allowed to have her opinion. It could be absolutely insane. It doesn't matter. Remember, Pearl's not passing any laws. She's not looking to get people banned off of social media. She's not looking to redirect shit. She's not getting grants from the government. She is not doing any of those things. She is a woman on the internet with an opinion that doesn't match up with the opinion of these people. That's the only thing she's guilty of.
Well, and you have to realize, too, Allison, because we're both kind of middle-aged, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, the women these days, right? Like that I keep going back to that video, and this woman, she actually was the one recording it, and she uploaded it. But she was like she's a little chubby, but she dolled herself up, and she's in the passenger seat of this really nice car, being driven to a first date by a relatively, better than average attractive guy, right? And he pulls up to the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, after she had been late, and that's why he lost
Yeah.
his reservation too.
Yeah.
I've seen this.
He was going to take her to someplace nicer, but he lost the reservation because she took an hour and a half longer than, and she wouldn't even let him come up and sit in her living room. She made him sit in the lobby of the apartment building waiting for her, right? And so he's like, okay, we're going to the Cheesecake Factory. And she's like, I'm not getting out of the car. And so then she's like, yeah, we going to talk about this. And she records the whole thing. She's live streaming it. He's like, "Are you recording me? Like, what the hell?" And so they talk about it. And he's like, "Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory is nice. I was going to take you to this other place, but I lost my reservation because you were late." She's like, "Well, but I didn't get off work until blah blah." He's like, "Well, that's fine. That's why we're going to the Cheesecake Factory, right?" And then she's like, "No, I'm not going. I'm not going to be seen in the Cheesecake Factory." And he's like, "Okay, I'll drive you home." And then she starts crying. Like she wasn't crying theatrically. She was trying to not cry.
Yeah.
She's like, but
yeah, you fucking douche. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Like this is not okay, this is not the behavior of somebody who wants a relationship. It's the behavior of someone who's looking at the world in terms of her vanity.
And what she can get out of it, like,
Although
a $400 dinner at some nice place or a $200 dinner at the Cheesecake Factory.
$200 really got that expensive?
Well, I don't know, like appetizers, entrees, drinks, dessert.
Drinks, especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But what is it that you were going to say overall about me?
Well, when you look at these women, right? Okay, she wasn't even that attractive in terms of like she wasn't a 10, right? She was mid. She was mid because she was a little pudgy, right? She had nice cleavage and she was showing it off, and she had really nice braids. She did her makeup nice, but like she was nothing special, right? And it's like, okay, so you're nothing special. Okay, what can you do with nothing special, right? Okay, you can do the best you can with what you've got physically. And you know what? If that's what men care about, if men care about a woman who has a nice waist to hip ratio, even if she's a little overweight, right? Who has a pretty face, who keeps herself looking nice, who dresses nice, right? Has a nice personality, right? Has something to bring to the table, right? All of those things, right? Then you're going to be able to find somebody, even if you're a little overweight. But like, you can't be Lizzo without the money and fame and demand a top tier man. You can't do that. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Right?
Well,
and the whole idea of saying, well, fuck you, I landed a man, now he's stuck with me, so I'm going to off with the makeup, on with the pounds, right? How is that respectful? He didn't marry some 300-pound freaking bitch who, like, wears sweatpants all day.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's bait and switch, right? Like, it's, I'm just like, I'm literally, I'm just, what, the fact that men have desires, and one of their desires is a woman who is in decent physical shape, not top-notch physical shape. She doesn't need to be a fucking Victoria's Secret model pre-fat body positivity movement, right? She doesn't need to be that. She just needs to be presentable, right? And the fact that men have a preference, that's not okay.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm getting at. But what I'm getting at is that these women are demanding they're demanding something that they don't, like, they can't afford, or they can't. It's what I'm trying to get at is, if
they're trying to buy a carton of cigarettes with buttons and a smile.
Okay, if you're a woman and you genuinely want a companion, you don't want a meal ticket, you don't want somebody who's going to fix your life, you genuinely want somebody to grow old with, to explore the world with, to enjoy your life with, to have those memories with, you're going to find someone. And it doesn't matter what you look like. I mean, to a degree. I mean, if you're like 300 pounds, maybe it does matter. But I mean, I've even seen 300-pound women find someone. Right? If you have that attitude, but ultimately, what she's calling out is women who expect Mr. Big, Christian Grey, and they look like Lizzo, right? And, like with no fame, no wealth, right? Nothing. They're not bringing anything else to the table. She's calling out those women. She's not calling out the women who genuinely say, like, how many generations now have feminists say, well, now women can mate for companionship. They don't need money anymore. That hasn't fallen out. Like, that's another thing, deer turds instead of spicy meatballs. That hasn't fallen out for anyone. Have women actually done the work to overcome that desire for a man who's going to fix everything in their life and pay for them? Because it still seems to be there. Women still want to be financially dependent on a man. It's just that the amount that a man has to earn is higher now. They still want that dynamic, but it's now far fewer men actually meet it. So that attitude that women had in the 50s, that, I want a man who makes money and can take care of me, that hasn't changed. It's now we have gone from like 90% of men can actually fulfill the desires of women to 10% of men. That's the difference. Because the actual desire, women have never done the work to change it. They've never done the work to start wanting companionship versus a meal ticket. And that doesn't mean that if your husband is the one who earns the money, that that falls into that. That's different. If it's something you've decided upon, if it works for you, that's fine. But if you bring that attitude to your relationship and you don't actually look like a man in the top 10% wants, I think that's what Pearl is calling out. She's calling out the vanity.
Yep.
And the self-deception. But if you're a woman who's like, I just want a companion in my life, I don't want the top 10%. I just want a dude because I like men. And I like the way that men approach life. And I think it brings something to my life to have a man. That's not the person that Pearl's talking about. She's talking about the women, and not just the women who are like, oh, I expect a top tier man, but I expect a top tier man who's top tier, and what he wants is companionship. He doesn't want anything from me. And it's like, it's such a duplicitous way to approach it. And most women haven't done the work to resolve that desire for a meal ticket or a man who fixes their life. They haven't done that work. And she's pointing that out. If you haven't done that work and you're asking for, and you aren't the top tier woman, you want a top tier man, it just doesn't work that way. Like I said, so my opinion is there's a sort of a hidden other side to what she's saying. And maybe I'm reading into it quite a bit, but you can get off the vanity carousel by simply sitting yourself down and saying, what is it I actually want in my life? What is it? What is the kind of person that I want to spend a life with? I want to grow old with. I'm going to set aside the meal ticket. I can be my own meal ticket. Now, who do I want to grow old with? What are his characteristics? I mean, who do I want to wake up with when I'm 70?
Yeah, but the problem is, Allison, is that the higher up the socioeconomic ladder a single woman goes, the higher her standards for who she's willing to settle for.
Yeah.
So hypergamy actually increases as women become more capable of looking after themselves, right? Like women at the bottom rung of the socioeconomic ladder will settle for a man who earns less.
But that's the thing. They haven't. They haven't gotten to the place of wanting a companion.
It's instinctive.
It may be instinctive. A lot of things are instinctive. Wanting in the Bronze Age, wanting a man who can protect you, instinctive. That we actually overcame Because right now, I guarantee, 50 years ago, women weren't matching up with men who were Bronze Age warlords. Okay, they were matching up with post-Christian men who had a good job. So we can get over these instincts, or at least we can moderate them. So women can moderate this.
Or transpose them on other aspects.
Women can sit down and look at the world in terms of who do I want as a companion, not who do I want as a meal ticket. And they haven't done the work, right? They haven't done the work.
Well, they won't do the work because nobody's going to actually make them do the work, because traditionalists think that men should provide for women, and feminists basically aren't going to admit that anything
is wrong with women.
Is instinctive.
So what I'm saying is feminists promised men that when they lost their role as breadwinners, which is really what happened, they got their role yoinked from them, that women would evolve into wanting them as companions. And that hasn't happened.
Yeah, no.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And what we need is, we can't have the traditionalists who are like, well, men should be No, you're not solving this issue. We have this issue, this manifest issue right now, and it is bigger than the West now. It's everywhere. And it's part of an advanced industrial system. When we are awash in material goods, women still want a provider, but their standards for what is a provider get so high that no man, or very few men, can reach them. And we don't want those. We don't want the average man. I'm sorry, conservatives. We don't want the average man to be able to live up to the material standards of the average woman now, because we need another 2 Earths. And once they do that, we'd need another 10 Earths, because it's the next 10%. This is a spiral that causes our resources to be completely depleted. So women need to get a handle on this. They need to learn to look at the world in terms of, who do I want to grow with as a person, as an individual? What man out there is going to respect my individuality and to help me develop it as a person? That is a companion. Okay, it's not a
Allison, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally hit mute. I said women need to do the work that feminism said they would when they took away men's role as breadwinner. Okay, men wouldn't have problems now. Like, no man is going to have a problem with a woman who wants him as a companion. In fact, many men do want a woman who wants him as a companion. I think that's actually a pretty standard desire for most men. They don't want a woman who just wants a meal ticket anymore. They want a companion. And women are not providing that. Yeah, and we can talk about body counts, we can talk about youth, we can talk about purity, but I think it comes down to that. Women have done the work to become companions. And that's what men really want, if you really ask them. And women haven't done the work. So they are still in that mentality of, I need a top tier, I need a Bronze Age warlord. They're still in that mentality. At the same time as the people who took away men's ability to fulfill that for women did so while saying, well, women will want you as companions, guys. What a fucking lie. Men have every right to be pissed. You took away what made them attractive to women and said, well, women will find your soul attractive. And women didn't.
Yeah, well, you know, what frustrates me is, because do you remember the monk debates years ago, where they had Camille Paglia and Caitlin Moran and a couple of, they basically had 4 feminist women, right, arguing whether men were obsolete.
Oh, right? Look at that. It's Poochie.
And you know, and I did a speech basically.
Hi, Jojo.
Okay, Jojo, fuck off. I'm talking. I did a speech on that debate, right? Because it's like, are men obsolete? Well, what do you do with things that are obsolete? You take them out to the curb, right? Okay? Like, we're not talking about, are men heirlooms? We're not talking about, are men unnecessary? Because there's a lot of things that are unnecessary that we want to have.
A great deal.
that we value, like vacations and nice cars and, and 2,800 square foot homes and things like that. Like nobody needs that, right? But, like there are plenty of unnecessary. So it's not a matter of are men unnecessary. It's a matter of are men obsolete. If men are obsolete, what do you do with your obsolete stuff? You take it to the fucking dump, right? And you throw it away. And the very fact that they could ask this question in a nationwide debate aired on CBC, right? That and they didn't have a single man in that debate. It was not just 4 women, 4 feminist women, okay, arguing whether men were obsolete or not. And the thing that really infuriated me was that the audience went in and the majority, because at the Monk debates, they vote on the resolution before and after the debate, right, to see whether their minds were changed. And something like 60% of the people in the audience before the debate voted that no, men are not obsolete. And then they changed their minds, and 60% by the end of it decided that yes, men were obsolete. And I was like, Camille Paglia did her best, right? She really did her best. She did everything other than say, if civilization had been left in women's hands, we'd all still be living in grass huts, right? Okay, she was just like, men do everything that's necessary for the proper functioning of society. It's almost all men, right? Men are not obsolete, and we consider them so at our peril, right? She was very convincing, but somehow she didn't convince an audience full of fucking Torontonians. I think it was Toronto that it was hosted at. And and I was just fucking blown away. How do you basically say 50, like, how do you even dare to ask the question in the first place? Right? Because things that are obsolete are to be discarded. Right? Caitlin Moran said, I think she said something along the lines of, well, you're not necessary anymore, but you're kind of like ice cream. We'll keep you around. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of condescending cunt is this? You'll keep them around? Yeah, when your fucking sewer line needs unclogging. Bitch.
Well, that's kind of, she's a good example of the approved sort of men's issues resources, right? Like, can I really quick look at this diverting thing? Where is the image?
Oh
here?
yeah.
It
So
says,
just to give people an understanding, the proposal in this particular document, I know we've gone all over the place. The proposal in this particular document, and as the original tweet said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So we don't know how many initiatives that the Homeland Security
and how many
funded.
other big tech sites. I'm sure this is also on all the other social media platforms.
Yes, this is 100%.
We're just learning about Twitter.
We're learning about this because Elon Musk is dragging it out in the open on Twitter. But this goes probably several times fold more for YouTube, for example, than Twitter. So, but what they were proposing in this initiative or in this grant, and this is just one, was to divert attention on Twitter away from us to approved of men's manipulation groups, basically.
Yeah, men's resources. Men. Yeah.
Not really men's resources, but resources to ensure male compliance, basically. And so these are the resources that they were diverting attention that would have organically gone to us to something else that they approved of. And I just want to point out, like I think a month ago, there were people talking about, why aren't you millions? I mean, if they were talking about how when I say that this stuff is difficult, I'm like, oh, this is just too high IQ. That's why we have a small audience. I'm like, okay, first of all, this stuff is difficult. It isn't difficult because it's difficult to conceptualize. It's difficult because it runs counter to how we see ourselves as people, right? It's questioning some very deep and fundamental aspects of our identities. That's where what we do. And it's also blaming women, which nobody likes to do. That's like the verboten in our society. But also, apparently, we are jogging uphill. So not only are these concepts difficult in terms of questioning fundamental aspects of our identities as men and women, they're also being pushed against on a fundamental level, like just in behind the scenes in terms of the FBI and the Homeland Security. And I have also seen other groups that talk directly with YouTube about censoring content like ours. Right? And we are also women who talk about these issues. So almost every angle, we are facing headwinds. So please give, us a bit of a break. Maybe not Karen, because she got quite big, but, give me a bit of a break on this issue of how big we are. I'm trying. I would love to be huge. Well, maybe not really huge, but reasonably huge, and I would love to have lots of people understand these ideas and integrate with them and think about them and see them. But there's a lot of stuff, being thrown in our faces that's preventing that. And it's not just incompetence on my part. Okay. I'm trying my best. And I know that I'm not the greatest YouTuber or social media presence. I'm not really that great at that kind of stuff, but there's also stuff that we're dealing with beyond my personal incompetence. And that is, we got these big institutions that are out for us, that are influencing YouTube, and we're influencing Twitter to reduce the kind of organic attention that we get. Right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm incompetent, but it's not just that. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Let's see the initiatives we're being organic attention that would have gone to us, they're sending to.
I got another super chow from Ashthrun, who gives us $5. Thank you, Ashthrun, and says, Chris Williamson, in a show with Louise Perry, kept perpetuating the idea that women, before they could earn their own money, were not really in love. They were suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Not that men were working in the mines while she was at home with the kids. And now he questions if men are still necessary. This document even shows that men talking about meaning of life are a threat to society. Some theories are no longer theories. Well, I think honestly, Chris Williamson either does not have the courage to face the truth, or he knows where his bread is buttered and he's not going to say anything risky. And it's probably more likely the latter.
Well, I'm sure that women often felt trapped in the house. I mean, like my mom, she stayed at home with us.
Sure that men did too, trapped at their jobs.
My mom, she stayed at home with us until I was 10, right? She worked while my oldest sister was small because they were living with my grandparents. But then, once they got their own house, she basically was like, okay, I'll do books for a couple of small businesses, from home, work from home. And then she like babysat and she cooked lunch for the neighborhood kids and stuff, and, made money that way and stuff. So she was always bringing in a little money. But she, there were days when she greeted my dad at the door when he came home from work, holding a screaming kid and saying, take this child before I kill it, because I've had it. Like it's enough, right? Like it's enough. You're feeding 8 neighborhood kids lunch every day. You're babysitting 2 more, and you got 3 of your own. It's like, no, that's a lot. That's a lot. And you're also, operating a household without a dishwasher or a microwave. I didn't even taste store-bought bread until I was 10 years old. Right? So, she kept a vegetable garden. I mean, like, she was a busy freaking woman. And she had all these kids around her all the time. And so, and I'm sure she felt like she was stuck, right? Well, and then there's my dad, up in Swan Hills, a couple 100 kilometers away, in a pouring fucking rainstorm on his back underneath a freaking big truck, right? Realizing that, oh, the reason why the brakes aren't working and why I was called all the way out here is because this fucking idiot driver has been driving for the last 500 kilometers with the emergency brakes on. Legs sticking out into traffic on the side of a fucking highway, right? So I'm pretty sure they both had their trials and tribulations. They both had their annoyances. They both had their areas of dissatisfaction, right? But every Friday night, we'd sit after dinner and after MASH was over, because it played at 6:30 every night, and we'd all sit and watch MASH. And then mom and dad would turn off the TV, and they would balance their checkbook together, compare their receipts, go through the Visa slips, all of that, write everything down, because they were very meticulous that way. And it was like, oh, it's like dim lighting, and it's very warm and cozy, and maybe the middle of winter, and here they are, just working as a team, building towards something, right? And that was the example that I grew up with. The occasional take this child before I kill it, right? But the whole, yeah, we're all working together. And it wasn't just them, like they recruited us too, right? So we did a lot of projects with them when we were old enough to wield a paintbrush or a shovel or a pair of scissors, because there were no weed whackers back then. So mom would send us out with scissors to trim the verge, right?
Mm. Okay. Let's,
but like, no, that is how it's supposed to work, right? Yep. And you have your moments of dissatisfaction, you have your moments of resentment, you have your moments of frustration where you want to tear your own hair out, right? Okay, so do men. So do men, and it's like, I'm sorry, that's just life. That's life, and you get over it, and you move on, and you get back to work, and you build something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, there's this perception that if you're a woman and your every waking moment isn't a perfect.
You're a little far from your mic, Allison. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. There's a perception that if you're a woman, if you're a woman and your every waking moment isn't like, you remember Barbie, that beginning.
Oh yeah. No,
everything is perfect. I have my friend, and it's like, that's not life. Life is difficult, and your contentment is in that you've built something, you've done something through your own actions.
Brian, you should Google The Far Side. Wendell, I am not content.
Yeah.
And then post that comic.
All right,
so let us get what? To the Wendell what?
Wendell, I am not content.
Wendell, I am not content. And then we will go to what they're trying to divert, organic attention that we get to. And I think that they had a recommendation for Twitter, which I don't think was picked up. So that they would, under our content, they would show something, or maybe it was, maybe they do it. Wendell, I'm not content.
Like, look at her. She's like in jewelry with a martini, like in this nice place. And he's just like sitting there having a beer after work. And she's like, Wendell, I am not content.
Well,
she's got like a plate of food there, And
that's
and
pretty
she's
funny.
Just like, no, bracelets and stuff, right? And it's just like, that's women. That's women these days. Yeah. Wendell, I am not content.
Okay, so let us look at the people that our attention to us should be diverted to. So this is actually something that people should be aware of. Men should be aware of. These are groups you probably should avoid at this point.
You want me to go through this? So
yes, because they don't.
This is just a screenshot from the document, but it says our methodology using digital advertising, in-depth research, and partnership building, nepotism. Our goal is to create healthier outlets to divert people, they mean men, incel and incel adjacent, so basically just men, away from misogynistic
us.
content online.
We're incel adjacent.
I guess you
No,
are.
they mean men. Like basically
But I
when they
think they're
say
specifically
incel
talking about
adjacent,
men,
that,
yeah. They don't really know
No,
what to
they-
do with you yet.
you see, you have incels, and then you have men who could be incels. So that basically, you could just say incel adjacent just is the entire group men.
Yeah.
Mm.
It says through
Oh.
strategic messaging, we mitigate the proliferation of hateful behavior online in order to enhance safety for all people. And so they aim to target the manosphere. And I can't see it because it's kind of like low res, but I'm pretty sure it's like Andrew Tate, Rollo Tomasi, Pearl Date, maybe Pearl, I don't know, and some other people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, honestly. This could be like any like MGTOW creator. It could be Paul Elam. It could be Warren Farrell. It doesn't matter. And then
No.
it says by surfacing positive male influences. So essentially, they have approved men's resources. They want to use Twitter's tools through strategic messaging to redirect people that might find themselves, you know, looking at Andrew
Listening to
Tate
Karen.
or basically any unapproved person. I don't want to get
and
into what was that?
It's any unapproved. That includes
Any
us and
unapproved
includes
person. Like,
Karen.
because the thing is, if I name a name, you guys might get like in the weeds about whether or not that person specifically is a good or bad example. It doesn't matter. It's basically they have their people and you have to go to their people, period. It doesn't matter who it is. So they have men alive, man enough, every man, the Mankind Project, which we know about the Mankind Project, right? Visible Man, the Men's Circle, Men Living. These are all male feminists.
I want to make a clarification. There are two Mankinds. There's Mankind UK, which is a legitimate resource for men going through domestic violence, and then there's the Mankind Project,
Yeah.
which is basically
To be fair, the Mankind Project isn't the Good Man Project. The Good Man Project is cancer. But the Mankind Project is a bit sus. They're kind of like, at best you're gonna be like in the woods, you know, beating on bongo drums, smoking weed, like that at best. But it's not really gonna. It's not gonna solve your problem.
Mankind the one that you saw?
What?
You wasn't Mankind the project, the one you went to in Chicago?
Yes, it was Tim Goldich, and he's a part of that. But he's also part of NCFM, and I think, you know, Tim Goldich is kind of He's trying to make all of this work. You know, he's very moderate in this.
He's a little bit of an old school hippie.
Yeah, he's a very old school hippie type guy. And I went to a couple of Mankind Project things, and I was like, you know, this is all fine and dandy for what it is, but it's so harmless, but it's also not going to fix anything. Like these guys, you know, they're mad because they don't have access to their kids. They're losing a bunch of money and property in their divorces. All this other stuff, like this going out into the woods and beating bongo drums, it's just not going to fix the laws. It's just not.
No,
like,
it's putting the onus back on men to, you know, you punch a man in the face, and instead of the man saying, "Hey, don't punch me in the face," he's like, "Well, how do I hit my bongo drums to get rid of the bruise on my face? Like, how do I take responsibility for how the system has harmed me as a man? How do I take responsibility and deal with the emotions of being marginalized as a man, of being discriminated against in law? How do I take responsibility for those effects and just live with them?" So essentially, it's like, instead of challenging all of the discrimination, challenging the negative messaging, challenging all of this like societal crap, the men in the Mankind Project are saying, how do we become strong enough, allegedly, to endure all of this, to swallow it and just live with it?
Well, I think the Mankind Project, okay, so there is something to be said for first aid, right? Like it's not going to improve.
I don't think that's necessarily first aid. I think that's
but it's basically people dealing, an organization dealing with men in crisis, talking them down from a fucking
first
ledge.
aid requires recognizing that there's second aid and third aid. not
Yeah,
that
but
you're just getting somebody to the point of being able to do deeper healing. That's not what this is about. This is about men taking responsibility for how something is being the things that are being inflicted on them. So there's
well, I don't know whether that's the case with the Mankind Project. I think that it's mostly a support group, and I'm fine with support groups. But at the same time, that's just first aid. That's just a Band-Aid. That's just the bandage you put on the wounded soldier. What you need to do is end the war.
Well, I
yes,
was
and you
gonna
also
say,
need to stop blaming the soldier for being injured.
Yeah,
yeah,
or for being in the war when he was drafted.
Yeah,
yeah.
as
exactly.
well.
I was gonna say that there's nothing wrong with the Mankind Project, like the good part. Like I think there is a good to it. However, when you have people that are really trying to address legislative, legal, and political issues that are directly impacting the lives of men and boys, and you try to talk about them, and instead they redirect you to bongos in the woods, it's not going to solve the problem. It's like a step backwards. Like it's fine if you're trying to like get some connection with other men, but what's going to happen if you direct these guys to bongos in the woods? They're going to be like with their buddies, like, well, at least I'm not going to commit suicide this week because you guys are here. But it would be really nice if like somebody could like help me see my kids. Oh no.
Yeah.
We're not going to fix those things. We're not going to fix that. You just toke another bit of this weed, and we'll eat some cupcakes, and we'll talk about our feelings, and I'm sure that you'll forget. But the thing is that it doesn't fix anything. It's still like this. Let's just talk about it.
It's a very female approach.
It is.
It's like it's not about the nail, except the man is the one with the nail in his forehead. You must have seen that.
That's my well, yeah, we've talked about it many times. That's my only like I see what they're doing. What I'm saying is that even if some of these groups, like there's like fishing the good fight, I don't know what that means. So I see that they're basically like, oh, men can like get together and go do something together, some activity, hiking, fishing,
like the men's sheds.
bongos in the woods. But that's fine. Like men should have their spaces.
I'm sorry. In this document, it should be sus at this point.
It is. I'm saying it is, but it's also it's like it's supposed to tide you over.
Horrible,
yeah, it's supposed to tide you over so you don't do anything crazy, but it doesn't actually address your problems. Okay, it's just a pacifier,
Okay, yes. Yes, we can look at support groups, that's fine. But if you're part of a group that insists that men are the problem, they don't have problems, that's a big issue. And I think that's the demarcation. These individuals want to direct men to groups that remind men that they are the problem and that they don't have problems, they are the problem. And if they have problems, it's because they are the problem. And I think that's the line. I don't think men are the problem. I think they're almost always the solution. And in fact, I think framing men as being the problem is forcing them to be a solution in a way that ultimately is self-destructive. But go ahead, Karen.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm very unnerved that my lips are moving when you're speaking, Allison.
I know. Maybe. Well, do you want me to turn, or do you want Brian to turn that off? Maybe.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, it's okay.
If I can put all my F-bombs and C-bombs on you because my icon spoke while you were also speaking, then maybe the Department of Homeland Security won't come down so hard on me.
Well, as we know, we're all Karens, so this works.
Yeah, well,
this must be why they think we're all Karen. Like I'm Karen, and Brian's Karen, and Hannah's Karen, and Lauren's Karen, and Mike's Karen, and we're all just Karen here.
Yeah, and we're all angry white women who want to talk to the manager.
Yep, we do. All right. So what did you want to go into any? Oh, that you want to look at the person behind
Oh,
this?
I don't know what is next. I guess you said that there was, because I don't know how much longer we can do this. We've gone for like 2 hours.
Okay, we can do this until Karen needs to leave. But
Well,
go back
I
to
should probably go in about 15 minutes. So
All right. Well, I
All
have this. I have this thing that you just gave me. This document. Is it okay for us to go through this? So this was given to us by BX, the person who initially gave us the info on this thread.
I think that maybe you should wait until because I've talked to her and she might be willing to come on the show and talk.
I think that would be great if we
Yeah,
can
so
have
why
her
don't we
on,
just
because
go back to looking at what they're let's
This?
go back to looking at yeah, that.
Okay. So
Let's
we're
go-
still okay.
Yeah.
So this is still the women in the service of male supremacy,
male
exploring
supremacy.
females, supporting extreme misogyny on mainstream social media platforms. Okay. Scoping the phenomenon. The trend of conservative female content creators sermonizing on topics such as having families younger or submitting to the men in the family is not a new one. Different variations of these trad wife influencers exist, and their content, often aestheticizing domestic existence, have steadily entered the mainstream. However, the recent... What?
I just want to point out that all the male negative content on TikTok doesn't rate a mention at all. So it's fine for women to go out and do all this crap, like this negative trash
talk
talking
shit.
men.
Yeah.
Talk shit about men, that's fine. But, women who support men, they're terrorists. That really shows you what our society's value system is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. However, the recent rise in female-supported extreme misogyny counts only a handful of content creators with substantial following. Ideologically, they promote the red pill, which they put underlined, a term that from the Matrix 1999. Oh, thanks for the source there. Co-opted,
the citation, yeah.
yeah, the citation. Co-opted by the manosphere to refer to having woken up to the reality of feminist society and its damaging treatment of men. While data shows a very real set of issues and challenges facing young men, the red pill traces all of these issues back to modern women. Well, actually,
No.
Why not? It does.
I mean, to some degree, but not completely.
Modern women, yes, but
modern women are a product of feminism, though.
That's right. Modern women are the product of feminism, and so it's like it all inevitably goes. All roads go back to feminism and cultural Marxism and the oppressor-oppressed narrative and
dialectic and so on.
Yeah, well, the Marxist lens, right, where you just take Mein Kampf and you replace. You take the Communist Manifesto and you replace bourgeoisie with men and proletariat with women and capitalism with patriarchy, and then there you go. You're all set, right? And you only wasted 4 years.
There you go, millions of dollars in grants. Boom.
Yeah, and you only wasted 4 years in university to learn how to copy paste,
okay,
how to find replace.
They're saying that there are issues and challenges facing young men.
No, really? I did not know that.
It's unavoidable to recognize this. And they're calling out the people who say, we need to deal with this because we call out the people who increasingly prevent these issues to be dealt with.
And we need to deal with it in a systemic way, not on the individual level. Right, the level of so I found a support group and I won't commit suicide this week, maybe next, but not this week. Right, no, we need to actually look at the entirety of all of the institutions that are inflicting these conditions on men, and say, well, we need to actually make institutional changes in those areas, and and they don't want to do that. They just want to have the stopgap of the freaking drum circle in the woods with apparently copious weed.
All right, should I read more?
Because because weed doesn't damage people's brains or anything.
Okay, I think here's another thing. They would marginalize and regard as terrorist any group that recognizes the issues and challenges facing young men without blaming young men and without reframing it as something that young men need to take responsibility for overcoming their the effects. So, you should be emotionally strong enough to go through an abusive relationship, lose your children, lose your house, and at the end, you should just have the emotional skills as a man to just suck it up without being stoic.
Well, never mind,
Yeah, well, never mind, right? That's their attitude. Like, look at who they're declaring terrorists. Anybody who has sympathy for men.
Yeah.
Like, is there anyone? And yes, sure. I guess there are some places where support groups, but I when I look at these support groups, inevitably I find that they all have the same framework. Men must blame themselves for their problems. Men cannot put any blame on the legal system, the social system, the financial system, the corporate system, the government system. They cannot put any blame on any ideology. They cannot put any blame on the women in their lives who've done this to them, or the ideologies that facilitate the women in their lives to do this to them. They must blame themselves. They must regard society's failure of them to be their failure of society. Yeah. That is the thing that is the difference. If you tell young men, if I was a person telling young men right now that your problems in your life are you failing society, not society failing you. If I were to say that, I would be in the good books of Homeland Security and the FBI and Canadian government. If I were to say that. But because I say, no, actually these problems are out of young men's hands, and if we continue to blame them and expect them to suck it up, these problems are going to become our problems. Because I say that, I am a terrorist. That's it. That's the difference. All right, let's and all of the rest of this is pretty much irrelevant. They're just spewing some shit about justifying.
There's a graph, and it basically explains
female-supported
misogyny looks like. So number 1, it says conservative anti-feminists, and then it defines them. They reject feminist theory, believe biological differences should lead to traditional gender roles. Women belong to the private sphere. And then you have far-right women, idealized gender norms, white supremacist thought, interlacement of anti-feminism and national purity. Then you have trad wives, occupation of traditional gender roles, prioritizing family values, commitment to Christianity. Oh my God!
Oh no!
Perish the thought.
Where's
the Unitarians?
And then we got femcells, involuntarily celibate, sarcastic, self-depreciating online content, extreme messaging to elicit shock and or public outrage, targeted by manosphere for not being real incels. I think femcells is basically just pick me, but that's what that is.
Let's skip, because the rest of this is just basically Pearl.
Them talking about Pearl Davis for like 5 pages.
Yeah, let's skip to the headline as speculating on why.
Okay. Speculating on the why. Now, undoubtedly, as you have been reading this piece, your mind wandered to the question that prompted us to write this piece in the first place. Why do women decide to build an entire online persona on their dislike of women that do not fit into the prescribed standards of misogynists? The following scenarios outline potential motivations for the aforementioned.
Okay, let's hear what the baboons think of us.
Yeah. Scenario 1. Anti-women female influencers are merely opportunistic. Patriarchal bargains and competition. You want me to read this whole thing?
No, you know what? Let me read it.
Yeah, you do it. Okay.
In in Denise Candiotti's Bargaining with Patriarchy, 1988, she lays out the different, culturally differentiated ways women strategize to gain security, safety, and authority within patriarchal society. In a quid pro quo that leaves sex-based oppression intact, the woman receives a desired position in exchange for any type of submission to a man. Having bargained with the patriarchy, the woman has carved out an optimized, favorable place in the hierarchy for herself while leaving the system intact. Within the context of a reappreciation of traditional gender roles, a growing contempt for women's sexual liberation, and an increased exposure to misogynist content for the manosphere, some of these female influencers may be engaging in patriarchal bargaining. While humiliating modern women and arguing for a rollback of civil liberties of women, they're carving out a privileged role in the patriarchal hierarchy and hope to be respected and desired by men, entirely defining themselves in opposition to other modern girls. Okay, lady, can I point something out? There's only one of us, or one of the this particular group that's on this list of terrorists. Okay, you have society, and then you have the people that society declares terroristic, right? We are apparently on that list. We are the anti-feminist women. You are getting a grant from the U.S. government. Who do you think is engaging in a patriarchal bargain here? The ones who are being
she's getting a grant from mostly the male taxpayer.
Yeah, but you're getting a grant from the U.S. the Homeland Security. You are getting a grant from the institution, and we are being labeled terrorists. And we're the ones engaging in the patriarchal bargaining with who? Who are you bargaining with? Like, you're bargaining with the goddamn U.S. government. Who the fuck are we bargaining with? Who? What institution do we appeal to? Like, literally, this is absurd. Okay, like, do I need to reiterate again? All right, kicked out of a freaking convention. Where was my patriarchal bargain then? Or was the patriarchal bargain the feminist that got me kicked out bargaining with the patriarchs controlling the convention because they didn't like me? Okay? Tried to sue to get my $750 back. Oh, blocked there. So where was the patriarchal bargain? Where was my patriarchal bargain, huh? Okay? Tried to put on a convention, got kicked out of the U.S. for 5 years. Where's my patriarchal bargain? Can I use this patriarchal bargain to get off this list of fucking potential terrorism? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Of the two of us, what's your name again? Of the two of us, or three of us, four of us, Clara, Leela, me and Karen, which do you think is actually getting a patriarchal bargain? The ones who are on the terrorist list or the ones who are getting money? Like, this is ridiculous. You are the institution. And incidentally, what you're bargaining is your own individuality. You're cutting off and destroying your sense of self in order to get this freaking grant. That's your patriarchal bargain. Turn it. Big mirror. It's you, Carla and Leela. You're the ones making the patriarchal bargain. Okay, I'll keep going. So the anti-women patriarchal bargain. Where's the rest of it? This is really poorly this is really poorly laid out. Oh, I also want to point out they're saying that Pearl's content becoming more polished as she gets more money to polish it is evidence of some sinister misogynist ploy. The form of this misogynist content has transformed and evolved. Professional audio studios for podcasts are set up by these influencers. High-quality videos are shot and edited, and behind seemingly natural street activism hides careful planning and manipulation of footage to align with ideological intent. It is this increasing sophistication of seemingly simple content that may prove especially effective in swaying people in favor of misogynist content. Oh, good Lord. So essentially what's happened is Pearl is improved upon us and is creating a sinister misogynist whatever empire through a patriarchal bargain. I don't know who she's bargaining with. I mean, YouTube that's demonetized her, TikTok that's kicked her off the platform. Like, where's the bargain?
Well,
she's just entertaining.
Her producer is male, so.
Yeah, but she employs him. He's bargaining with her, ladies. Like, what institution is Pearl bargaining with? What, the men who are interested in her content? They're not an institution. They're just a bunch of individuals. God damn.
Wait a minute. Look at this. Scenario 2. This is another example, another explanation. Anti-women female influencers are committed to gaining political power and often practice feminism in the process. What?
Would you please
wait. So anti-feminist women are trying to get political power. How is that not projection? Like, these women already have tremendous political power, and they're just trying to keep it. They're trying to get more.
I've had people actually, right from the moment that I put up my first several videos, right? You know, like first 6 months I was active on YouTube, saying I should run for office, and I've always said no. I don't want political power. Like, sounds like a lot of work. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, no. I want to do what interests me. Oh, and also I'd have to clean up my language because, like, fuck that shit.
Okay, and cultivating a counterculture, the attention economy. It pays to be a successful content creator online, even with the frequent crackdowns by social media and video sharing platforms on content.
Oh, really?
Where's the patriarchal bargain there?
I demonetized my entire channel. Right? The moment that they brought in this fucking screwy fucking rule, right? Where it's like, well, you have to guess whether your video is suitable for advertisers. And if you say it was and we decide it wasn't, then you get a strike. I was like, fuck, demonetize everything. Right? I can't afford this shit. Right? Like, I can't afford for my entire body of work to go down in flames, right? Because I guessed wrong on what was advertiser friendly, right? So I was just like, yeah, no. I set my entire channel to 18 and over, and I set my entire channel to demonetized, right?
Yeah.
I earn nothing except for the few tips that trickle in through PayPal and the little bit that people leave on Honey Badger Radio's website for me, designated for me. And that's it. And it's in the few $100s every 3 months. That's it. That's what I earn.
And we managed to eke out a living doing this.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody who supports us. 100%.
Well, and I'm not complaining either, because I do this out of passion, right?
Yeah.
I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. It's what I want to do. That's why I transitioned from the YouTube channel to talk radio spots, is because virgin bums on virgin seats are worth a lot more to me, to my soul, right, than cash in my pocket to preach to an already converted choir. Okay, so like I just basically said, if I can reach people on the freeway during drive time in the morning in Pennsylvania, right? And I have to get up at 5 a.m. to do it, I'm going to do it. Okay? I'm going to do it. I'm going to introduce them to some new thoughts, new ideas, right? And I'm going to spread awareness that way. And that's the best possible way that I can actually be useful. Okay? Be useful in this endeavor, right? So I was just like, but I abandoned my channel as a money-making venture years ago. Like, the moment my husband earned enough that I didn't have to worry about putting anything of that I earned towards our bills, right? I was just like, yeah, fuck, yeah, no, I'm done worrying about the money, right? Now I'm just back into this as a passion project. That's all it is. That's what it is. I don't earn any money, and or hardly any money. And the money that I do get, what little I do get, is really nice, and I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody but this is not a career that pays my bills at all.
And yet this is a career for me that pays my bills. However,
Just barely.
yeah, and also
you're not buying any mansions. You're not like BLM.
No, we're actually just doing work. Like it's pretty one-to-one. You know, you pay us, we do work. I manage a community. And you know, and that's it. Like it's pretty transparent. But
it's like a paycheck to paycheck thing. It's like Brian said, it's paycheck to paycheck. Nobody has, like, none of us are living the extravagant life.
and
none of us
Pearl is, but she's creating content that people enjoy.
Yeah,
and maybe she is motivated by money.
But she's not making a whole lot of money now because she's been completely deplatformed and demonetized.
Apparently didn't work very well for her.
Yeah, no, it really didn't.
Okay, a patriarchal bargain requires an institution to bargain with. Yeah. There is none. Like every single institution is trying to get rid of, or look at this. Like this is a grant from the U.S. government.
$700,000. I could use $700,000
from our channels. Like, where is the patriarchal? Who are we bargaining with? Good Lord. It sounds more like you're trying to destroy women and remove their livelihood based on your bargain with Homeland Security.
Yeah, no, I'm just like you made $700,000 to produce this work product, right? And I'm just like, I'm blown fucking away. I'm blown away because it's just like, what the fuck did you do for that money? Nothing.
Yeah, and they're probably going to.
You sat on Twitter and you found the few accounts, right, that you wanted to target, and then you targeted you made some sock puppet accounts or whatever, and you targeted some, look into the Mankind Project, and that's what you got paid $700,000 for. Well, yeah, I could do that.
And they don't get it right at all. Nobody's going to do this for a paycheck or for attention or for social clout. I mean, maybe Pearl is, maybe Roma is. They've got huge, and they've really figured out but here's the thing. I mean, we're lumped in with the same people. Like, regardless of what you dislike, there are people in our audience who dislike Pearl's content. You may dislike her content, but we are lumped in with her content. And it's like, okay, so
I think if Pearl was only in it for the money, she'd be doing feminism.
Honestly,
I think that she legitimately cares about this stuff, and it just happens that being a young lady is helpful to blowing up your channel. This, I think, is why Roma and Pearl are big, because what they say isn't like as deep, but they are saying the stuff.
No,
and
actually,
them being young women is very helpful.
Surface,
but I don't think they don't care, because, and I would even say this about Roma as well, because if they were just in it for the money, they'd be feminists, because that's easy money. You don't even have to think to do that shit.
Oh, so, man, that guy who did the audit of like all the women's shelters in Alberta and found that on average the director of a battered women's shelter in Alberta earns over $125,000 a year, and this was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I'm just like, well, nice work if you can get it, I guess. Right, but and that's taxpayer money.
That's a director of a women's shelter. If you get into the NGOs that do fucking all, you're getting like millions of dollars a year. If you're a board member, you just collect a few $40,000 paychecks from each board you're on. You do an hour of work a week, if that, and then you're making millions for for doing the lattes with your friends every couple weeks.
Yeah, no,
it's an unbelievably lucrative field. Because the instant you say, I need to be saved because I'm a woman, a bunch, like a herd of daddy big bucks come over and start shoving wads of cash down your throat. Oh, I'm so weak and vulnerable. I need a big man to save me.
Well, it's
Big
like,
Daddy
okay,
Cash Bucks. More funds getting thrown at you.
I'm gonna give some props to Anna Kasparian here, because she went on the Patrick Bet David podcast, okay, and she was talking about homelessness in California, and she said, okay, so all they do is throw billions of dollars at this, okay, but where does that money go? It goes to NGOs. And then the NGOs pay their freaking directors $250,000 a year to fucking do nothing. To do nothing about
It's almost
homelessness.
like the state is actually not interested in helping people when
Yeah,
people
I
could
know,
just
it's
help
the
people
weirdest
directly.
thing. And I'm just like, okay, props to her, right? Like, she actually has been coming around a little bit over the last year or so, in terms of like, things are getting too woke, things are getting too fucked, right? And the Democrat Party is not necessarily anybody's friend. And but she's, like, she's stood up and said, like, I don't like the term Karen. I don't like the fact that because I'm a straight white woman, I'm vilified. Well, welcome to the fucking club, Anna Kasparian, right? Okay, because before it was you, it was straight white men. So,
Yep.
like, but it's like, okay, Bill Maher's waking up, right?
Mm.
Not enough. And I don't forgive him. I don't forgive Anna Kasparian yet either. But, it's like they are actually starting to open their eyes and go, like, what the fuck were we promoting? Like, we thought we were promoting this thing, and it turned out to be all this other shit, right? And it's no good. And, like, every time, and this is one of the differences between, I think, between feminists and anti-feminists is, you even saw it with, or even between the right and the left at this point, right? Is you find that people on the one side of the issue, on our side of the issues, we're like, well, you acknowledged you were mistaken, or you were wrong, or you went too far, or whatever. Welcome to, we have cookies. Welcome to where you are now. We have cookies. Have a cookie, right? And feminists do not do that. Once you've gone to the other side, you are persona non grata forever.
That's right.
Sorry?
You a smart motherfucker. That's right. Okay. So what?
Okay,
Karen, do you have to go or?
I have to go. I just got a text from my son.
Oh, wow.
And
Because we just got to the part about you.
yeah, well, it's gonna have to wait.
We'll have to do. Yeah, we'll have to do more later. I mean, this.
Yeah.
That's
this
all right.
is just
All right,
like.
then.
But yeah, no, I'm not that interested in myself. My son
Well,
needs.
you know what? We can blaze through this, Brian, because it's basically the next section.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, talk about me behind my back all you want.
All right, fine. Okay, so
Fine.
if we're gonna devote another episode to this,
Yeah, why don't we do that?
okay, so essentially what we will cover in that episode will be the final conclusions of their looking at why women do it, why women create quote unquote misogynist content. And again, I would remind you, I have a different definition of misogyny. My definition of misogyny is believing that a woman's individual actions and choices will never rise above in importance the fact, or overshadow, or ever eclipse in importance the fact that she's a woman. So a woman as an individual is always inferior to a woman simply as a genital mass. Okay, that's my definition of misogyny. And
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I am on my way out the door, so I will leave you two to say
We'll
goodbye.
just explain what we're going to do and how we're
and
gonna
I'll see you next time when the topic is me, apparently. So,
do it.
all right.
All right, so we'll cover the concluding section on why anti-feminist women do what they do. Then we'll look into YouTube's a preliminary exploration of manosphere content, in which we discover that it is misogynist to want to develop the skills to attract women, and it's also misogynist to feel like you can't develop the skills to attract women, and it's also misogynist to just not bother with the skills to attract women. It's misogyny all the way down, folks. Surprise! And then we will we'll go over their conclusions. So it may be a little bit of a shorter show, but hopefully it'll be an entertaining one.
Well, there's
All right.
there's other stuff we might look at as well. So yeah, I think this is it's a big event, and I think it's an ongoing issue. So
Okay, whatever you want. I see somebody says that they want to avoid misogyny as like a word.
oh
Well,
yeah,
whatever word you want to use for that, because there's got to be some way to define it. Like I don't know. It really bugs me. This idea that no matter what you do or say as a woman, it'll never be more important than the fact that you are a woman. And feminists feed into that constantly. And they don't call it a patriarchal bargain, despite the fact that it's probably the closest thing to being a patriarchal bargain. Anyway, so I just want to remind everyone, after the show is over, if you enjoyed this content, you want to send us a tip and say, hey, you're doing great work, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And just a final statement on my incompetence. I am not a media personality. I never thought I was going to be a media personality. I didn't do any education related to media personality or anything like that. I never really worked on the skills necessary for social media. I am just somebody who reads a lot and thinks very deeply on things. And I have an interest in gender dynamics. So that's my background. I apologize if my work isn't really great at bringing attention to these issues like Roma and Pearl do. But on the other hand, I don't know if I wanted to embrace dumbing down everything that we talk about in order to make it as accessible as possible, which is the thing I think they both do, and they both do it well. They are entertaining personalities. They bring a certain depth that people relate to these issues. And that's why they've gotten bigger. I am somebody who likes to go deep. I like to look at the underlying patterns and the underlying forces. And that doesn't appeal to everyone. You know, they don't want to go 7 layers deep. They don't want to start doing a tour of the mantle, you know? So that's the focus that I bring. If it's what you like, stay with us, listen to us. You may find that we predict a lot of stuff that happens going forward, and that might be of interest to you. If you don't like spoilers, then go watch Roma and Pearl, I guess. Anyway, if you enjoy this content, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and send us a comment after the show is done. We will endeavor to read those comments at the next available show, and it is the best way to send us any kind of funds and tell us that we're not screaming into the abyss with our crazy little channel here. And yeah, so once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And back to you, Brian.
okay. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And again, like Allison said, you know, go to feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a super chow. And if you're on Rumble, please subscribe. And if you are over here on YouTube, give us a like, hit that thumbs up button. So, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Please share this video, and we will talk to you all in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.